Hello there. Welcome to Whispers.exe, where the silence watches back. The following story is a work of fiction created for atmospheric and entertainment purposes. Before the shadows whisper your name, hit that subscribe button. With that being said, get comfortable, close your eyes, and let the dark settle in. It begins like most things do, quiet, unnoticed, and far too late to stop. Highway 33, the oilfield ghosts. There are stretches of road in this country that seem older than the land itself, older than memory, older than grief. Highway 33 is one of them. If you head north out of Taft past midnight, past the last convenience store with flickering signs and the dogs chained behind sagging fences, the road narrows. It curls like something shy, something that doesn't want to be seen, winding through oil fields left behind by time and mercy. By day, it's already strange. Pump jacks like rusted insects bowing to the dirt, their arms ticking rhythmically like they're praying for something no one remembers. But it's at night, only at night, that the watchers appear. They stand just beyond the shoulder, shoulder width apart, in coveralls so old the seams gleam. Faces blackened, not with shadow, but with soot, thick and flaking. Their hands hang limp at their sides. Their eyes, if they still have them, are caged deep behind the grime. They don't move. They don't follow. They just watch. People don't really talk about them in town anymore. Not loudly. They used to once, back when there were more rigs than empty diner booths. Back when the oil still ran like blood, before the ground swallowed its debt. My name is Elias. I used to drive that highway every Friday night. I was dating a girl in Coalinga. Her name was Marcy. She didn't like the road much. She told me to take the long way through Kettleman, through the farms and foothills. She said the air smelled better, said she had bad dreams about pump jacks moving on their own, said her grandpa used to tell her stories about soot men. I didn't listen. Highway 33 was faster, fewer cops, no traffic, just me, my truck, and the endless roll of broken asphalt lit by the high beams. But one night, I saw them. It was around 2:30 a.m. I remember because I was low on gas and the needle dipped just beneath the last white line. The air had that dry, bitter reek, oil and sulfur, like wet matches crushed under boots. I'd rolled my window down to keep from falling asleep, and then I saw the first one. He stood by mile marker 217, not moving, not waving, just standing there, maybe 5 feet off the shoulder, his posture too straight, too still, like a cardboard cutout, except he was breathing. I swear I saw the faint hitch of his chest, rising and falling like it hurt to keep going. I thought maybe he was a worker, or a transient, or someone waiting for a ride. But then I saw another, then a third, and a fourth. Always five of them, always in a row. I didn't stop, I didn't even slow down, but my fingers tightened on the wheel and something cold unspooled inside my spine. I turned off the radio. The silence felt heavier than it should have. When I got to Marcy's, I didn't tell her. I didn't want her to say, "I told you so." She already hated the drive. But that night, while she slept, I looked up old news clippings on my phone. There it was, July 14th, 1953. Well, number 19, Hilburn lease. There'd been a pressure misread. Blowout. 5 men buried alive beneath 30 tons of crude-soaked clay. The well burned for 8 days. No bodies recovered. No names mentioned in the article. The next morning, I asked Marcy what her grandpa had told her. She just looked at me and said, "They only show themselves to the ones they're looking for." I laughed it off. But the next Friday, the drive felt different. The lights on the pump jacks flickered even though the wind wasn't blowing. There were no cars, not even a distant pair of headlights, just that smell and the road and me. I passed mile marker 217 again, and again they were there, all five, closer this time. Their faces were tilted ever so slightly in my direction, not facing me, not really, but listening. The next week, I told Marcy I was staying home. She didn't argue. I kept dreaming of the highway, not of crashes or fire or ghosts, just the stillness, the endless black road, the watchers, and behind them, something else, something deeper, like a well with no bottom. I tried taking the long way the next time I saw her. I drove through Kettleman. It took 2 hours longer, but the fields were quiet and the sky felt farther away. I breathed easier until I saw something scratched into the road just outside Avenal. 5 names. Not carved, written. in something black and slick, still glistening. I don't remember all the names, only the last one. It was mine. I slammed the brakes, got out, but there was nothing there. No names, no stains, just dry gravel and heat. I didn't tell anyone. Not then. Not when I started hearing the jingle of a wrench on concrete when I walked to my car at night. Not when I found boot prints in my driveway. Always five, always fresh, always facing the front door. Not even when I woke up one morning with soot under my fingernails. They don't chase. They don't speak. They don't ask. They remember. It's been years since I drove that road, but some nights when the wind shifts, I smell it, oil and ash, and I see them again. 5 of them. In coveralls, watching. They're closer now, not on the road anymore, but in town, at the edge of gas stations, in the rearview mirror of empty buses, reflected faintly in the glass of vending machines, waiting. I thought maybe it was guilt, some subconscious echo. But I never wronged them. I wasn't even born when the well blew. I asked an old man once, retired driller. He ran a bar just outside Lost Hills. I asked if he believed in the soot men. He didn't answer for a long time, just stared at the back wall, and then he said, "They're not ghosts. Ghosts are trapped. These ones, they remember being free." I don't know what they want. I don't know why they chose me, but I think they want to be seen, remembered. Not by name, but by witness. Last night, I drove to the old oil fields again. Don't ask me why. The road was half gone in places. The sky was red from the flares, but the towers weren't burning. Not anymore. I stepped out of the truck. Didn't bring a flashlight. Didn't need one. They were already waiting. 5 of them. They didn't speak. They didn't blink. They stood in a half circle around an old rusted derrick where the dirt was still black and soft and smelled like history. I walked to the center. I sat down, waited, and for the first time, they turned their heads. I don't know how long I sat there, but when I finally looked down at the dirt, there were 5 names scratched into it, and mine was the 6th. They're not angry, they're not kind. They are still, they are listening, and they are waiting for you to listen too. So if you ever find yourself on Highway 33, if the wind dies suddenly, if the road ahead looks darker than it should, if you smell something ancient, don't stop, don't speak, just keep driving. But whatever you do, don't look back, because they don't need you to see them. They only need you to know they see you. I tried to leave it behind again. Told myself it was all just some long unresolved trick of memory. Grief stitched onto the road like potholes you keep hitting even after you've memorized their placement. But the truth is quieter than that, more patient. It waits. The soot got worse, not just under my fingernails anymore, but in my sheets. In the corners of my bathroom mirror where steam should have blurred the glass but didn't, in my shoes, on the rims of every coffee mug I used. It clung to me like I owed it something. I scrubbed, washed, changed detergents. It never went away, just moved, hung back for a while, waited. It's like they were reminding me that silence is not absence and stillness is not peace. I stopped talking about it altogether. Even Marcy didn't know the worst of it. She just thought I was slipping, said I was too quiet, too distracted, said I'd started talking in my sleep, mumbling something about pressure valves, about gas pockets, about something under the skin of the land. She taped me once, played it back while I sat there, hands cold around a ceramic mug. It was my voice, but not mine. Slower, wet somehow, words dragging like chains. They were never supposed to dig that deep. That was all it said, over and over, between breaths. She cried the first time she played it. I didn't. I couldn't. I just felt hollow, like I was hearing someone else's memory taking root inside me. Eventually, she left. Didn't blame her. Some things you don't stick around for, especially when they start following you home. It got worse after that. Not louder, not more obvious, just closer. I'd see smears of black across the windshield each morning, streaks that weren't there the night before, like fingers had been pressed against the glass from the inside. I stopped locking my truck. It didn't matter. They don't need keys. One morning, I found 5 oil-drenched handprints on the hood, perfectly spaced, too wide to be real, each one larger than any hand should have been, each one angled like someone had leaned down to stare through the windshield. There was no dirt on the tires. I hadn't driven anywhere. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the pump jacks again. Not the rhythmic clink and sigh I remembered, but a staggered, wet groaning, like lungs filling with something they shouldn't. And always that hiss, like gas escaping through teeth. I left town, didn't tell anyone, didn't leave a note, just filled the tank, drove east, and didn't stop for 2 states. I thought maybe if I could get far enough, they wouldn't follow, that maybe they were bound to that place, that stretch of road, that land. But they weren't. In a motel outside Winslow, I woke up to the sound of boots, 5 pairs, walking across the tile floor. When I sat up, the room was empty, but the floor was wet, smelled like old diesel. I checked the door, still locked, chain still latched. I didn't sleep the next night, or the night after. Then, in the third motel, I found it, written across the bathroom mirror. Clear letters drawn through the fog that hadn't come from a shower. You're the only one who looked. I don't know what that means, not really, but I think I understand enough. Everyone else drives by, keeps the music up, pretends they don't see the figures by the road, tells themselves it's tricks of light, heat shimmer, sleep-deprived nonsense. But I saw them. I let myself see them, and now they won't look away. They're not haunting me. They're bringing me. I don't know where yet, but every day the air feels thicker. My lungs burn like I'm standing too close to a flare stack. I've started coughing up flecks of black. Doctor said it was nothing, probably stress. Gave me an inhaler, didn't help. Last night I found something new, a small badge, plastic, cracked and yellowed, in my coat pocket. I don't own a coat like that. The badge read, Hilburn Oil, Elias, Site B, my name, but not my job, not my time. I threw it out the window while driving, watched it tumble down a ravine. This morning it was back on my nightstand, wetter than before. I'm starting to forget things, names, dates, what month it is, but I remember everything about the accident in '53 now. Details I shouldn't know. How long it took for the fire to reach the gas pocket, how one man tried to run but slipped on the clay, how another was buried before he could scream, how the ground pulsed once, just once, like something deep below had finally turned over in its sleep. No one ever found the cause. No investigation report ever named the men. But I see their faces now, more clearly each day. One has a glass eye that reflects things that aren't there. Another's lips are burnt shut, fused into a permanent silence. The tallest wears no boots. His feet are cracked open like the dry soil he walks. And the fifth wears my face. I don't know if it's a warning or a promise. Every night I dream of the well. It's not burning anymore. It waits. Mouth open, wider than it should be, lined with wet, quivering ribs of bent rebar. I stand at the edge and they are there, surrounding me, their coveralls dripping black, their faces unreadable. But I feel it, that they want me to join them. Not out of malice, not revenge, but so they won't be alone. I think they were forgotten, buried under decades of asphalt and indifference. No graves, no names, just soot and waiting. And someone has to remember. Someone has to carry it. I don't think I'll last much longer. There are days when I feel the pump jack rhythm inside my own body, joints clicking, head swaying, a slow, mechanical surrender. Sometimes I wake up standing, in the field behind whatever motel I've picked that week, hands limp at my sides, eyes staring into nothing. There are always 5 shadows near me, and the sixth is my own, just a little darker than it should be. I wonder if they're still on Highway 33, or if they've all left it behind now. Following me, stretching further, looking for someone else who might look back. I don't know what happens when you finally stand among them, not beside, but among. Maybe you sink into the land, maybe your name appears on the road, fresh paint, still wet, still smoking. Maybe someone drives over it and doesn't notice, doesn't slow down, doesn't see the figures standing in the dark, but someone will eventually. Someone always does. And when they do, they'll understand. That some silences aren't empty, they're full, overflowing, waiting. The pump jacks still bow, even with no oil left, even with no pressure. They keep moving, like they can't stop, like they mustn't. And I'm starting to understand why, because there are things under the dirt that must never be left completely still. The dreams are longer now, they don't fade when I wake, and worse, I'm not sure I do wake anymore. The line between sleep and not sleep has frayed, like an old seam splitting down the middle, leaking black thread into everything I see. Sometimes I open my eyes and I'm in a motel bed, sweating through the sheets. Sometimes I open my eyes and I'm standing by the road under a sky too low, too quiet. And sometimes I open my eyes and the land itself is breathing beneath my feet. It exhales through the cracks, thick, slow gusts of heat that smell like the inside of a rusted pipe. And the air shimmers, but not with light. It shimmers like something behind a wall of oil glass, like you're seeing through something thick. There are no birds, no bugs, no distant hum of traffic, only the faint creak of steel bones, old derricks bowing and sighing as if mourning their own failure. And there's always the five, closer now, their clothes stained beyond recognition. Faces no longer soot black, but blurred, like oil dropped on paper, like you're not supposed to see what's beneath. I tried to ask them what they want. The first time, my voice didn't come out, just a dry rattle like wind through a narrow pipe. The second time, I whispered it, not out loud, just with my thoughts. I thought the question into the silence, and something answered. Not them, not individually, but through them, with them. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't even sound. It was a weight, settling into my chest like a memory I never lived. We didn't go down screaming. That's what it said. Not with words, but with certainty, with the pressure of old earth and sealed doors. We went down watching. There's something underneath the ground on that stretch of Highway 33. Not a spirit, not a curse, something older, something deeper. Something they woke up when they drilled too far, too fast, and didn't stop to listen. People talk about ghosts like they're echoes, but what if some echoes go forward? What if some things don't haunt us from behind, but from beneath? Every time I cough now, I taste metal. Not blood, not rust, but something processed, like refinery slag. I tried to dig once, behind an abandoned jack east of McKittrick. Didn't bring to my hands. The dirt was dry but soft, brittle. It crumbled like old paper, as if it wanted to be opened. I dug until I hit something flat, something too even to be stone. When I brushed the dirt away, I saw it. A steel plate, unmarked, bolted into the ground with massive sunken rivets. And beneath it, I don't know. I didn't open it. I couldn't. But I felt something behind it, waiting, breathing. Not asleep, just listening. I left my fingernails in that dirt. They never grew back. After that night, the figures began following me during the day. Shadows behind mirrored windows, faces barely glimpsed in the shimmer of a gas station heatwave, reflected behind me in the chrome of tanker trucks I hadn't seen pass. They're not threatening. They don't need to be. They know where I'm going. They know I'll return. Everyone does, eventually. You can only drive in circles for so long before the road beneath remembers your tires, before the names start appearing again. They do that sometimes, those names. Still painted fresh, still wet even in heat that could boil tar. Always five, then six, then seven. Not just workers now. Other people, travelers, witnesses, the ones who looked. I drove past mile marker 217 last week. The marker was gone, just a scorch ring in the gravel, like something had burned through the sign and left the shape behind in memory. That night, the sky was the color of old bruises, purple, yellow, thick, no stars, just one long seam of darkness stitched across the clouds like a mouth kept shut too long. The truck died half a mile later. Not a sputter, not a stall, just stopped all at once. Even the emergency flashers didn't work. No lights, no signal. And in the dark, the air turned heavy, not hot, just full, dense, like standing underwater in a room where nothing moves. I stepped out, didn't bring my phone, didn't even think to. I just walked. They were already there, five of them, not standing this time, but kneeling, around a spot in the gravel where the earth pulsed, slowly, as though breathing. And they looked up at me in unison, their faces still blurred, still blackened, but I could feel their eyes like hot oil slicking over my thoughts. One of them reached out, palm up, empty, but I understood. It was an invitation, not a threat, not a command, an invitation to join them, to kneel, to look. I didn't. I couldn't. Something in me pulled back. Some stubborn shred of self still clinging to the illusion of a world where things made sense. I turned and walked back to the truck. It started on the first try. But the moment I looked in the rearview mirror, I saw it, where they had been, where they still were. A shape in the ground, wide, breathing, not a hole, not a pit, a mouth. And the worst part, it smiled, not with teeth, not with anything human, but with recognition, like it knew me, had always known me. And suddenly I understood it wasn't just the 5 who had gone down, they weren't the only ones lost. They were just the first, the ones who were supposed to warn the rest of us, to show us what waits when you dig where the earth says no. But we didn't listen. We never do. And now the ground remembers. Every road, every tire track, every mile driven in ignorance, it remembers. I don't know how much longer I have, but I know where I'll be. Back on 33, at the well, with the others, kneeling, watching, listening. Because whatever is beneath that land, it's still waking up. And it's hungry for names. Names that were whispered to the asphalt when no one was listening. Names that you might see one night, painted wet across the road, shining in your headlights for just a moment before vanishing. So if you ever drive that stretch and the lights begin to flicker and the air tastes like soot and silence, don't stop, don't look, don't remember. Because once you see them, really see them, they never stop watching, and the land never forgets. The motel I'm in tonight doesn't have a name. No sign out front, no number on the door, just a key already in the lock, like they were expecting me. The clerk didn't speak, didn't look up, just slid the key across the desk with a hand wrapped in bandages. I didn't ask questions. Didn't need to. I knew where I was. The room smells like diesel, and something sweet underneath it like burnt sugar. The wallpaper is yellowed and peeling in slow curls like it's trying to turn away from the walls. The mirror is covered with a sheet. I haven't touched it. I can hear the pump jacks again, but they're not outside. They're closer. Beneath, deep under the floorboards, beneath the bed, beneath the concrete slab and gravel, like they've been drilling upward for years and are almost through. I can feel them through my bones. The rhythm is perfect. Measured. One beat every 8 seconds, a breath drawn too slow to belong to anything living. I don't know what will happen when it breaks through, when that final shudder comes, but I think I'll know it when I feel it. The window doesn't show a parking lot anymore. I looked earlier, just once, and I didn't see cars, didn't see the road, just the derricks, stretching out in every direction, moving in unison, silent. And among them figures. Dozens, hundreds, all standing in rows, coveralls dark with oil and time, some kneeling, some standing, all facing me. Not angry, not mournful, just patient, as if waiting for a word that was never spoken, or perhaps listening for it. I think about the well sometimes, the one they sealed, plate bolted to the ground, the one I found years ago with my own hands in the dirt. I wonder if it's still shut. I wonder if it ever really was. I think it's not a well at all, not really. A well implies a bottom, a purpose, a boundary. But this thing beneath us, it doesn't end. It only folds back into itself, again and again, like a loop in the dirt drawing breath with no lungs. I've seen its shape now, in dreams, in stains, in puddles of old rainwater left on cracked pavement. A spiral, always a spiral, winding in, winding down. And at the center, something watching back, not a face, not eyes, but awareness. Older than language, older than fire. Maybe the 5 knew. Maybe that's why they stayed. Not to haunt the road, not to frighten the living, but to stand guard, to mark the place, to say, here. This is where the world cracked. Don't look too long, don't dig too deep, don't ask. But we don't listen to warnings unless they scream, and these ones never screamed. They just stood, still, watching, until someone somewhere finally looked back. And now it's me. I keep seeing the names, not on asphalt anymore, but in strange places. Condensation on a bathroom tile, ash clinging to the rim of a coffee cup, the way loose gravel lines up outside my motel door. 5 names I don't recognize, then mine. Always mine. I stopped wiping them away. What's the point? They return, sometimes different, sometimes older, but always in that same curling script. I tried to trace it once, see if the letters meant anything, if they were a code, but the ink ran, bled into my skin like it belonged there. That night I dreamed in static, soundless screaming, lights flickering across a red field of dead grass, and all five of them were there. But they weren't wearing coveralls anymore. They were wearing me. Five versions, each a little older, a little more hollow, a little more right. One spoke without lips, without sound. There was never a blowout, and the others nodded. We weren't buried. And then the fifth one, the tallest, the one with my face bent just wrong, he stepped forward and said the only thing I remember clearly. We're still digging. I woke up choking, black film on my teeth, under my nails, inside my ears. I think it's coming from the inside now. The soot. It's not a stain, it's not residue, it's a signal, a signpost from the thing below, marking what's already been claimed. I left the motel this morning, didn't pay, didn't check out, just walked. Didn't take my truck. It was gone anyway. Or maybe it was never mine to begin with. The road met me halfway, just past the edge of town, where the pavement turns to gravel and the gravel turns to dust, and the dust remembers names. I walked until I reached the derrick again. The same one. It hasn't rusted, hasn't changed, even though I have, even though the world should have. It bowed once as I approached, metal groaning like an old man trying to rise. And the plate in the ground, it was open. Not removed, not forced, just absent. Like it had never been there, like the earth had grown tired of pretending to be closed. Inside, there was no ladder, no warning sign, just a spiral staircase, wrought iron, slick with oil, leading down into black. I stood there a long time, listening, but there was no sound, only breath, mine and something else's rising together, becoming one. I haven't taken the first step yet. Not quite, but I will. Soon. Because I know what waits at the bottom. Not salvation, not death, just understanding. A memory that belongs to the dirt itself, a grief too old to hold its own shape anymore. And maybe if I go deep enough, I'll find the first one, the very first. Not worker, not witness, just the seed of it all. The thing we drilled toward in our arrogance, the silence we mistook for safety. I think it has my voice. I think it's been practicing. So when you hear me again, when I speak from the road, from the static, from behind the hum of the pump jack song, you'll know. You'll know. And maybe you'll keep driving. Maybe you won't. But if you stop, if you roll down your window and ask if I need help, if you pull over to see what's standing on the shoulder at mile marker 217, just remember this. Not every face is wearing itself, not every shadow belongs to the sun, and not every voice that says your name is yours, especially the quiet ones. The first step onto the staircase didn't feel like movement. It felt like surrender, a quiet giving in, like the final breath before sleep or drowning. The metal didn't creak, didn't echo. It accepted me, like it had always been waiting. I descended slowly, not counting, not thinking, just letting the spiral pull me down. Around and around, each step colder than the last. The air thickened, not with dust or damp, but with something older, something metallic and still warm, like the breath of a long-dead machine. I passed things on the way down, not places, not rooms, just impressions, windows in the stone flickering with memory. One showed a man standing waist-deep in crude, screaming without sound as his lantern guttered out in his hands. Another showed a kitchen, familiar mine, with the chairs turned upside down and 5 black fingerprints on the fridge door. Another just showed static, endless static, but I knew if I stood there long enough, I'd hear my own name whispered back through it. So I kept walking, down and down, until there was no more staircase, only dirt. Soft, willing. It gave beneath my feet without protest, and still the path descended. I lost time, not in chunks, but in loops, moments replaying slightly wrong, a sound I thought I just heard repeating itself 4 seconds later, my own breath stuttering out of sync with my chest. The walls pulsed, flesh-like, like the ground was exhaling me slowly, cell by cell. I found carvings there, etched into the dirt. Names, hundreds, thousands, stacked on top of each other like the walls couldn't bear their weight. Some were new, still soft at the edges, still damp. Some were my slight variations. E. Holt, Elijah H., still breathing. Each one felt like a version of me that had taken a different step, turned around when I hadn't, spoken when I stayed silent. knelt when I chose to run. And they were all here, now, below. There were no sounds of digging, no tools, no flame, just breath, just pressure, just that slow rhythm, like the heartbeat of something dreaming in oil. At the very bottom, I saw them, not the five. They had never come this far. They only marked the way. These things, these figures, they weren't human, not anymore. They were shaped like men, but stretched by time. Limbs bowed inward like they'd been kneeling for a century. Heads tilted slightly back, mouths wide, as if still gasping for a final breath that never came. Their skin, if it could be called that, was translucent in patches. You could see the veins moving beneath. Oil, not blood. They circled something, not guarding it, not worshipping, just facing it, like sunflowers bending toward a heatless sun. It wasn't a pit, it wasn't a shrine, it was a mirror, tall, framed in rusted pipe, set into the dirt as though the world had grown around it. I looked. Of course I looked. And it didn't show me my reflection. It showed me the moment before I first saw the five on the roadside, me alone in the truck, radio on low, eyes half lidded. It paused there, held it. Then the mirror shifted, showed me every time I could have turned away, every point in my life where I felt that strange twinge of don't, and did anyway. Walking into the fields alone after dark, running my fingers through the black grit that clung to the door handles, reading names aloud in the fog, looking, always looking, until it wasn't just me watching them. It was them teaching me how to watch back. The mirror darkened, and then I saw my face, but older, hollowed out, eyes wide and still like they'd forgotten how to blink, lips parted just enough to whisper something only the dirt could hear. And behind me, five others, each one a frame behind the next, fading into the spiral. I turned from the mirror. I turned toward the thing they were watching, the thing at the center of it all. It wasn't alive. It wasn't dead. It was continuing. A mass, black and glistening. Not moving, but vibrating softly, like it was caught mid-thought. Its surface glowed faintly from within, like the embers of a coal that's never quite cooled. It wasn't trying to speak. It was listening. To me, I felt the weight of it in my spine, the way the land does before a quake, before something ancient shifts under your feet and changes everything forever. And in that moment, I understood. We weren't meant to extract it, weren't meant to burn it or bottle it or measure it. We were meant to feed it with attention, with witness. That's what the five were doing. Not standing guard, not crying out for justice. They were anchoring it, giving it shape, giving it story. Because nothing survives in the dark forever, not even it. It needed us, and now it had me. I dropped to my knees. The others didn't turn, didn't move, but I could feel their approval, their resonance, like an old machine returning to rhythm. My hands touched the dirt. It was warm, soft, inviting, and I whispered a name. Not mine, not at first, just one I remembered from a sign long gone, one of the five. As I spoke it, the glow deepened, the mass shuddered, accepted. Then I whispered mine. And it didn't take me, it kept me. Because some places don't want to be forgotten, some wounds stay open, and some roads never truly end. They just spiral. Up above, someone new is driving, past the derricks, past the gas flares. They see something on the shoulder, they slow down just a little, enough to look. And I'm there now, one of the five, or the sixth, or the seventh. My coveralls are clean for now, but they won't be for long. I don't move, I don't wave, I just watch. And the moment their headlights pass through me, I remember them. And the spiral widens, and the ground grows deeper, and the silence watches back. There's something different about the silence now. It isn't empty, it hums, not with sound, but with presence, a slow, heavy awareness that presses against your skin like fog. That's how I know when another driver is coming, before the headlights, before the engine's distant purr, before the dust they kick up ever reaches the shoulder. I feel them, the weight of a new gaze, the flicker of uncertainty, that moment they ask themselves, did I just see someone? Some don't even register it. They blink, and I'm just a shadow, a smudge on the edge of their mirror, gone before they remember to be afraid. But others, they slow, just enough. Their grip tightens on the wheel. Their foot hovers above the brake. And that's when I know they're listening. They don't understand what they're hearing. Not yet. But something in the rhythm of the earth has found a match, and the spiral stirs. Those are the ones who return. Not right away, maybe weeks later, maybe years. But they come back, like magnets drawn to old metal, like something in them was unlocked by the road. I used to think we were cursed, that we'd been claimed against our will. But now I understand. It isn't about punishment, it's about continuity. The land remembers what the living forget, and sometimes it needs us to carry that memory forward, to become the shape of a warning too ancient for words. I don't know what people see when they pass me now, whether I still look like a man, or if the soot has taken that away. Sometimes I feel the cracks in my skin widening, not breaking, just releasing, letting what's beneath breathe. There are new watchers now, younger. Some barely more than teenagers, drawn by stories passed between towns, shared on message boards late at night. Photos that don't come out right, voices caught on CB radios, mumbling beneath the static. They come out here to chase ghosts to see if the rumors are true, and we welcome them in silence, because curiosity is just another kind of invitation. And every question, whispered into the dark, becomes a seed. Eventually, it takes root. One night, a girl stopped her car, not by accident. She meant to. She left the engine running, got out, walked slowly toward the shoulder where I stood. She didn't speak, didn't raise her phone. She just looked at me, right at me. And for a moment, the world held its breath. Then she said, "I saw your name." I didn't answer. Couldn't. Not in words. But I felt the spiral shift behind me, felt its recognition. I wanted to tell her to run, that it wasn't too late, that not every active witness has to become legacy. But she knelt, there on the gravel, hands resting on her thighs, eyes open, listening. And that's when I knew she was already marked. Somewhere she'd passed the sign, heard the breath beneath the dirt, dreamed the name before she ever saw it written. The spiral doesn't take everyone, only those who answer its call. And her name was already forming in the mirror below, still wet, still waiting. The five around me shifted slightly, not movement, not change, just accommodation, making space. Because now we were six. The earth doesn't rush, it doesn't demand, it just waits, and it watches through us. That night, I saw her standing at the edge of the well. Same staircase, same breathless hush. She looked down, and it looked back, and when she descended, she didn't scream. No one ever does. There's no fear once you understand, only duty, only presence. The derricks still move, though no oil flows. The pumps still tick, the silence still lingers. But beneath it all is the spiral, and within the spiral is us, the watchers, the witnesses, the remembered. They'll call it a myth. Say the soot men are just after images, stories wrapped in desert heat and long drives without sleep. But you'll know better. When you feel that tug, that slow pull beneath your ribs when you pass mile marker 217, when your radio cuts out for no reason, when your tires hiss over names you swear weren't there the day before. You'll remember this, and maybe, just maybe, you'll look, and we'll be waiting, not to take you, not to haunt you, just to see if you understand. That the spiral grows by sight, that the earth speaks in stillness, and that there are some silences you were never meant to escape. There was a night, recent, I think, though time doesn't hold shape the way it used to, when the wind changed direction, a soft shift, like the world inhaled and forgot how to exhale. The derricks stilled. For the first time in decades, the rhythm broke, and all at once, every movement on the surface, the swaying of wires, the lazy creak of old bolts, the silent sweep of metal arms, fell still, as if they too were listening. Beneath us, the spiral pulsed. Once, a deep, slow throb that rolled through the dirt like thunder with nowhere to go. And something spoke, not a voice, not a thought, a knowing. It came through every grain of sand, through the bones of every structure still standing, through us. A message carried without words. It is time. The watchers gathered, all of us. Not just the five, not just the six, but all who had looked, who had heard, who had followed the breath of the earth downward into the old, humming dark. We stood in a ring, not above, not below, but somewhere in between, in the seam where memory bleeds into matter. And there at the center, the mirror returned. No frame, no wall, just floating. Black glass suspended in the hush of a world holding still. It showed not reflection, not memory, but origin. The first fracture, the first spark of human arrogance that sent drills clawing into sacred silence, the first whisper heard by the thing beneath. It showed a man's hand on a lever, trembling, turning. And then nothing. Not destruction, not fire, just the spiral opening. Welcoming. Welcoming. We didn't watch with fear, we watched with reverence. Because this wasn't the end, it never had been. The stories that say the earth is silent, that it forgets, that it forgives, they are wrong. The earth remembers. Every footstep, every wound, every name scrawled in oil across its skin. It does not rage, it does not retaliate, it waits. And when the time comes, it calls its witnesses home. One by one, we stepped forward, each of us placing a hand on the mirror, each of us becoming still. Our outlines softening, our breath merging with the hush. The soot deepened, not a stain anymore, but a signature, a seal. And when my turn came, when my palm met the glass, I didn't see myself. I saw the road, alone, empty, stretching far into the dark, lined with flickering pump jacks and the distant glow of gas flares. And I understood. I wasn't ending. I was beginning. The road needed a new watcher, a new silence to speak through. Not to warn, not to terrify, but to remember. And so I walked, back toward the surface, through the spiral, through the soil that parted for me like breath. When I rose, the night was the same, still, waiting. And I took my place, not beside the others, but at the farthest point where the spiral would begin again, where the next curious soul would glance sideways at the dark and wonder, what is that? And maybe they won't stop. Maybe they'll keep driving, windows up, music loud, eyes forward, but maybe, just maybe, they'll look. And when they do, they'll see me, standing, still, covered in soot, watching, and the spiral will widen once more, one name deeper, one silence heavier, until the road forgets where it ends and becomes something else entirely, something alive, something listening, something that will never let you go.